Good morning, dear honors and postgraduate diploma students. Good morning, everyone who is in the house. It is my pleasure to share with you this morning just a few tips on how to write well, dear students, so that your work shows that you are really an honors student or a PG Dip student. But beyond that, so that your work can even help you to learn well at your master's level. And also, if you start now to learn to write well, in less than 5 years from today, you can obtain your PhD and be called Dr. So-and-so. I think most of you would like or love to hear that. And even beyond that, if you grasp the tips that I'm going to share with you, in a few years from today, you will be Professor so-and-so. I can't wait to start calling you that. So do not take academic writing workshops lightly. Try the tips that you get from such workshops and see where they take you. So good morning once again, and I hope everyone's morning is good. Tony, okay, I see. Okay. So I'm going to share with you just a few NQF level descriptors for your qualification. Then the implications of those descriptors for academic writing. I'm going to speak about what we do as the lecturers to help you to attain the level descriptors, and then what you as the student at the NQF level should do. In other words, how you should write. So, because you are enrolled in this qualification, which is at NQF level 8, your work should be different from that of a student who has not yet reached this level. I should tell when I read your work that this one has not been written by a first-year student at a bachelor's qualification, for example, because it displays all or some of the descriptors that I'm going to talk about for this NQF level. So yes, there are NQF level descriptors which prescribe the type of competencies that you should demonstrate at this level. I just picked just a few of them, dear students, but in this website, which is displayed here, you will get all of them that tell you what type of work you should produce at this NQF level. So, just a few, like I said, SAQA, that is South African Qualifications Authority, has a list of descriptors for NQF level 8. Some of them is that by the end of this program, you must demonstrate applied competencies, some applied competencies, and you must demonstrate an autonomy of writing. Some of the applied competencies that are listed there include demonstration of an ability to deal with complex problems using intellectual, research, and technological resources. Those resources will be provided, some of them, by the lecturer in the discipline, and also the lecturer will guide you to find even more But as we go on, you will find that you also need to be autonomous to be able to also find relevant information by yourself. So the other expectation is that you must demonstrate an effective information retrieval and processing skills at this level, an ability to engage with research, current and even sometimes historical research, depending on what topic you are dealing with, and scholarship in the area of your research or specialization. But in terms of autonomy of learning, when we read your work, we must see that you are capable of critically evaluating your own work and that of others with justification. The others in this case are the authors of the books and articles that you will be reading as you prepare for your reports and assignments. And you must also display or demonstrate a capacity to manage your learning tasks independently, professionally and ethically. Especially at the University of South Africa, most of the time you are by yourself, even though there are other students that you can interact with online and your lecturer, but you must display due to the requirements of this NQF level. You must display that you are able, demonstrate that you are able to work on those by yourself and professionally. The issue of ethics, I cannot emphasize it enough. The NQF level expects you to demonstrate the ability to identify and address ethical issues on your work, and sometimes even from the work that you are reading. You must be accountable, demonstrate the ability to take full responsibility of your work, full responsibility of decisions that you make, and be able to use resources. Now, sometimes you will be given work that you have to work with others in a group. In that case, according to this expectation, you should also understand that you are taking full accountability for the decision and actions of those that you will be working with in that project, for example. Right. So now coming back to the day's topic, that of academic writing. You are expected to produce and communicate information effectively. You must communicate ideas and texts effectively to a range of audience, and that range of audience is your lecturer, your examiners. They must understand what you are saying in what you are writing. You must offer some creative insights. You must rigorously interpret what you are reading, and what you are writing, and then what you are reading for writing, and then your writing must also recommend some solutions to issues and to problems that you encounter in society, and also that which you will identify from the texts that you will be reading. So producing and communicating information effectively. In the case of today's topic, you will be doing that through writing. Okay. So what do we as academics do to help you attain these competencies? The first thing that we do is to provide you with reading materials or study materials, and we also refer you to relevant materials. But in addition to that, we ask questions that require the demonstration of these competencies and the demonstration of autonomy of learning. So I just took 2 examples of questions that are given to you, which are assisting you to demonstrate these competencies. The first one I took from Organizational Communication Research, COM 4806, Tutorial Letter 101. In that module, you are asked which paradigmatic position of those listed in question 1 resonates with you the most and why. So in question 1, the paradigmatic positions were listed as decolonial, indigenous, post-colonial paradigmatic positions, transformative, critical, the positivist, interpretivist, critical, realist, pragmatic. So now the next question is asking you which of those resonates with you the most and why. So that kind of a question is actually an example of questions that you will be given, which are asking you to critically evaluate your own work and that of others with justification, because you cannot respond to that question unless you have critically evaluated each of those pragmatic positions and looked at what they are saying, how are they different, how do they differ, how do they compare, and then it is only then that you can now say, okay, this is the one that resonates with me, and then you justify that position. So NQF level attained if you are able to do that. Then the second one I took from HREDU 82 in the College of Education. You are given a question, research a topic in a specific subject that you know or teach. You must set out a problem that occurs in the classroom in this subject by focusing on your own experiences and related literature. Your topic and title must be related to a specific teaching or curriculum problem. Now, this is an example of a question that wants you to demonstrate an ability to deal with complex problems using research, which is one of the expectations or competencies that you should display as a student in this NQF level, right? So be encouraged, dear students. I took this quote from Alisa Valdez, who says, "There's no better teacher for writing than reading. Get a library card, that's the best investment." So from what I'm going to present next, you will see that all those level descriptors that are prescribed for you for NQF level 8, the only and the best way to attain them is reading. You cannot write without having read. So, how should you write? What is expected of you as a student of honors and postgraduate diploma? So I'm just going to again just mention a few things. The first one of those is that you should critically engage with reading materials and other relevant literature. So what does critical engagement with reading materials and literature mean? It means from what you are reading, identify assumptions, values, knowledge systems, and claims. Compare the texts that you are reading so that you can identify consistencies, identify inconsistencies between those, and you draw conclusions from those readings. So for example, the question from organizational communication that I showed earlier, it is actually asking you that, because you know the paradigmatic positions are about assumptions, values, knowledge systems, worldviews, and so on. So you need to critically engage each of those so that you identify what their assumptions are, what values are for each of those positions, and compare them. Is there any of those paradigmatic positions that compares to the other, or how do they differ? Then you can draw conclusions. When you draw those conclusions, it is where you position yourself. You say, okay, this one resonates with me better because of this and that. That is what we mean by critical engaging. So now that is the first indicator that you are not going to be a good writer at this level unless you read rigorously. Now, so what I'm saying here is that you critique what you read so that you don't just accept everything that is in your text as if it is the truth. So a student who takes what they are reading as the truth are the kind of students who will just list so and so 2020 says this, so and so 2021 says that, so and so 2019 says this. So what? That kind of writing, it leaves a question from the reader. The question, so what? So what if so and so? In fact, if you just present your work like that, it says you are accepting what these authors are saying. You are not being critical of what they are saying, to say you agree with them because of this, or you don't, or even saying this one is different from that one, which I read first, or which I read the other time, because you are just listing them. This said that, this one said that. So that is not a good way to write. Right. So at this level, dear students, we assume that you have already got to understand the grammatical and linguistic issues in terms of writing. You know how punctuation can change the meaning of what you tried to say just by leaving out a comma. Then the whole sentence means something different, or it can be interpreted differently. So that one, we assume that you have already got to understand. But at this point, or at this level, the main issue that we are focusing on, not forgetting the punctuation and everything, or grammatical skills, but we want you to display that you are able to interact with texts and with people. That is with your lecturer and with other students that you are studying with, right? So I took this from one of the tutorial letters for the module RSA 4801. So the lecturers for that module have identified a number of key aspects that you need to take care of when you write for that module and for others in this NQF level. The first thing is the question. Second one is originality and articulation and referencing. There's a lot of others that are listed there, but when you get to read those, you will find that they are actually about the level descriptors that I've already talked about, and even those that you will identify when you get to that website that I have cited. Okay, in terms of the question, you are suggested that at NQF level, when you are given a question to respond to, you must focus and respond to the question. Do not deter. Make sure that you are focused, and you must read the question thoroughly to be able to make a sound interpretation and analysis. If you don't read the question thoroughly, you just see one word from the question and then you think you know what is being asked, you stand a chance of leaving out some of the information that you are supposed to have written about. So you must ensure that you have addressed every key concept in that question and every central aspect. If you leave any, then you might see yourself getting less marks than you anticipated, only just because you did not read and understand and address the question appropriately. The second one is as important. Avoid copying and pasting information. Like I indicated earlier, if you copy and paste, then you are not being critical. You are not engaging with the text. You are just doing that, and it then not going to make sense of what you are trying to say, because the first part that you pasted is not going to speak to the second part, and so on. There will be no coherence. So it will be just a list of statements made, which are not necessarily responding to the question most of the time. So your responses should reflect that you understand the question, you understand the topic as guided by the text. And then one of the most important things is, as I said, ethics. Then if you do not cite what you are reading or where you got this information from, you are actually saying to the reader, this is my work, this is me who says this. And that is not how you should do it. So you must always acknowledge the sources of your information by citing them in the text that you are writing, and then listing them at the end of your assignment. Now that you can take for granted to say, we've been told that several times, but believe me, some of the students still ignore that part. And that is actually one of the very important indicators that you are an NQF level 8 student, if you are able to do that. Okay, still on how you should write. So this, the previous one, which I talked about, the question that you are given to respond to. The question has been given to you. It is for you to respond in order to develop an assignment. But at this NQF level 8, you are also going to be, especially if you are doing honors, you are expected to develop a research project. Now, if you are developing a research project, still reading is key. But for an assignment, like the previous example, for an assignment you have been given a question, then you go to texts to try to find an answer to that question. But for a research project, you are reading the materials in order to identify a gap in knowledge, the knowledge that is in the literature. You are not going to just summarize and report what is there. You need to identify a gap. That gap is the one that will assist you to develop a question. So the difference now from the first one and this one is that in the first one, it's an assignment where the lecturer gave you a question, but in this project, you are developing a question yourself, or sometimes a hypothesis, depending on which paradigm you are working under, right? So the research question that you will develop is identified, it will be developed from the gap that you identified from reading. So reading is key. Read, and read, especially if you are given, for example, the question that is like the second one that I took from education, where you are told to develop a research project on the area of your teaching, for example, area of your practice in whatever field you are. Just develop a topic. And so that question is very open for you. It's giving you such a space to think outside the box, because you are going to read as many books and articles as possible. Then from them, you are free to develop any topic. Once you identify that topic, you develop a question or a hypothesis. So even here, it's key that you focus and you respond, and you don't lose focus of the question that you developed. We should not, as we read your work, find that at the end of your document or your report, now you are no longer talking about what you had asked. The question that is driving your project, you must still stick to it to the last full stop of your report. So I just gave an example there that if, for example, the literature that you are reading speaks about how teachers interact with learners in the classroom to enhance learners' performance in mathematics. While you are reading those books and literature, other sources of literature, you do not find any of them saying anything about how interaction online impacts learners' performance in mathematics. So that is your gap. You only hear them speaking about interaction in the classroom, but the classroom in the physical sense. None of them is saying anything about interaction online. So that is your gap. And from this gap that we have identified, you formulate a research question or a hypothesis based on the gap. So that is an example. But what is key here is that you have read first. Reading is key, right? So once you have identified that gap, you state it clearly. You state it simply and to the point. In other words, you develop an argument. So how do you develop this argument? You introduce the readers to the literature you read. You tell the readers that you are not ignorant. You know that there is literature on this topic that you have decided to work on, or the topic that you have been given by your lecturer. There is literature, but justify the need. If there's that literature, then why should we be reading your report or your dissertation? Why should we be reading it? You must justify the need for your project if there's that literature already existing. In other words, state the problem. What is the problem? And then what is the goal of your research based on that problem? And then how do you intend addressing this problem? What methods are you going to follow? All that should be very clear, even from the first page of the work that you present. From your introduction, it must be very clear that you know what literature is there in this topic, and but while the literature is there, there is still a gap in terms of this according to the literature that you read. You don't say there is no literature in this because you might not have come across it, but you must be very open and clear that among the books and articles that you read, you are finding very little that is saying this, which you want to address in this project. Right. So just in terms of presentation of your work, I'm just saying a few things here as well, that it is very good and nice and fulfilling to read the work that is well structured. You have a way of doing this, writing in a way that is saying to the reader, read my work further. You are still going to get more. Don't leave this. And then that also is a way of attracting your reader and also sometimes attracting more marks for your assignment because you are writing very clearly and in a very structured way. So one of the ways of attending to that is to provide a topic sentence and then control your work to always stick to that topic sentence in a paragraph or in a section. For example, a topic sentence may read, there are various reasons why some papers never get published. Now, if I see that at the beginning of your paragraph or beginning of your paper, I am expecting to hear what these various reasons are. I'm expecting to read further to understand what are these various reasons. So if you have that as a topic sentence, but then the next sentence is talking about something else, it's no longer giving me these various reasons, then I lose interest because you have actually drawn my attention to the various reasons, but you don't provide them. But if the next sentence states that the first reason is that the authors do not clearly articulate what new knowledge, theories, or methods the papers aim to contribute to the field are, then I know that is the first, which means there's still second, maybe there's still third. In fact, your topic sentence may even have indicated the number. It may even have said there are 5 reasons why some papers never get published. So in that case, I'm even expecting more to say that, okay, I'm going to see the 5 reasons. But in that one, I'm still attracted to see what these various reasons are. So that is a way of controlling yourself as you write or as you present your work to say, I don't deviate from that topic sentence. That sentence is what drives me as I'm presenting this work in this section. So an even better way of doing this control is to give evidence from literature. In fact, that is what is expected. For example, that first, the authors do not clearly articulate what new knowledge, theories, and methods the papers aim to contribute to the field. You must cite literature that says that, because how do you know without having read and found that that is what literature says? So you must cite some literature and say, for example, so and so 2020 found that an example of a paper that was written by so and so didn't articulate this what the new knowledge is. As a result, it is indicated that this paper was not published. In that way, you are writing academically. You are not making any statements that are unfounded. Everything that you are saying is based on literature. Then you go to the second reason, third and fourth, and so on. That is good academic writing. Then the other thing is that, as I said, your work should always be ethical at honors PhD level. Now, ethical, I mentioned the issue of plagiarism, even though I didn't use that name, but if you copy and paste work as if it's your own, you don't acknowledge your sources, then that is called plagiarism. But ethical writing goes beyond that. Also, how trustworthy is the work that you are submitting? How do we get to know that this work is not fabricated? In fact, that of citing all the time your references and all that is one of the ways of ensuring that your work is ethical. And dear students, let me tell you that most of the time we can tell as lecturers that we'll be reading your work, and even worse, the examiners can tell if your work is not trustworthy. If you fabricate what you are presenting, it will be detected, and that is not a good thing for you. Okay, right. Also, this one, I have actually somehow mentioned it, but write logically. Help your reader to follow your argument or your discussion smoothly from one sentence to the next, from one paragraph to the next, subtopic to the next. This happens if you use transition words or phrases such as those that are listed there. There are many, and I know some of you are even English first language speakers. You have even better and even more language phrases that you can use that are going to help the reader to see a flow from what you are writing. There must be that flow. You are writing logically. So I have here just a few examples. This is one paragraph that has been written without transition words. So you will notice that it is the same information that is presented this side, but this side is better because the reader is kept interested to understand because of the use of those words that improve logical flow. This one I'm going to read for you because it's very interesting to me. There's a topic sentence there. Although some people may think that I'm a slob, I have some sound reasons for breaking the bed-making habit. In the first place, so that is a transition phrase. In the first place, I'm not concerned about maintaining a tidy bedroom because no one expects me ever venture in there. Oh, no one except me ever ventures in there. If there is ever a fire inspection or a surprise date, I suppose I can dash in there to fluff up the pillow and sleep on a spread. Otherwise, I'm not bothered. In addition, I find nothing uncomfortable about crawling into a rumpled mess of sheets and blankets. On the contrary, I enjoy poking out a cozy space for myself before drifting off to sleep. Sorry for bad reading. Also, I think that a tightly made bed is downright uncomfortable. Entering one makes me feel like a loaf of bread being wrapped around, sealed. Finally, and most importantly, I think bed making is an awful way to waste time in the morning. I would rather spend those precious minutes checking my email or feeding the cat than tucking in corners or snapping the spread. I wonder how many feel the same in this room. I got this from thoughtco.com. Right, be inspired, dear students. The greatest part of the writer's time is spent reading. From all what I've said, you got that. You spend your time in reading in order to write. A man and a woman will turn over half a library to make just one assignment. I got that from Samuel Johnson. Larry King says, write, rewrite. When not writing or rewriting, read. Larry King knows no shortcuts, same as I know none. So, dear students, someday you are going to look back on all the progress you've made and be glad you did not quit. And your face will be like this when you read your old writing. That is, if you take the tips that I have shared with you this morning. Happy reading and writing. Thank you.